my co-host, Lei Xing, and I will go over the week's most important and interesting news coming out of the China EV, AV, and mobility sectors. What Lei and I discuss today is based on our opinions. It should not be taken as investment advice. For those that are new to the show, welcome. And to our loyal listeners, welcome back. We ask that you help us please get the word out about this podcast to other enthusiasts. And of course, tune in again next week. My name is Tu Li. I am the managing director at Sino-Auto Insights, a global management consultancy that helps organizations bring innovative and tech-focused products and services to the transportation and mobility sectors. I write a free weekly newsletter that we pull many of our discussion topics from. You can sign up for it at sinoautoinsights.com, which of course I encourage you all to do.
Lei, can you let everyone know what we're doing and please introduce yourself?
Good morning from Munich. Tu and I are currently in a NIO ET7 and we're driving to the Munich airport where I will be dropping Tu off. And we've just spent roughly 5 or 6 days, just less than a week in Munich for the IAA Mobility 2023, simply known as the Munich Motor Show, previously known as the Frankfurt Motor Show. And this is episode number 132 or 133, and a special edition where we're recording this episode in a NIO ET7. And Tu, he is driving, and we're heading to the airport, and we're going to talk about the sights and sounds of IAA Mobility 2023. Where should we start?
So let's start with last night. We got to see some friends, one in particular that will be notable to our EV community, and maybe you can tell them who that was.
So last night, we were at the Wow Day 2023, which was organized by CarWow. And CarWow, for those that listen to our show, we had just dropped our latest Max episode with Philip Saylor Amend, the CEO of CarWow Germany. And a couple months before that, we had recorded an episode with James Hind, the founder of CarWow.
Who we got to meet last night.
And we got to meet both of them last night at the CarWow, Wow Day 2023. And at the Wow Day 2023, we met Dr. Daniel Kirchert. In Chinese, is known as Dai Lei. And he is the former, well, I guess he is the former founder and co-founder of Byton, one of the early casualties of the China smart EV startup space.
What a great guy. He has so many cool stories to tell.
Yeah, and he spent more than 25 years in China. He was formerly one of the executive VPs of BMW China and the Brilliance joint venture. He was head of Infinity China before co-founding Byton in 2015, 2016. And it was funny because yesterday was September 7th. And it was exactly 6 years ago in Shanghai on September 7, 2017, they announced the brand, the Byton brand. So I thought that was, what a coincidence that we meet him again in his hometown of Munich, exactly 6 years later. And he just founded another company called Noyo
Mobility.
Noyo Mobility, which is a kind of a sales and service partner to help sell Chinese EV brands. And one of the brands they're helping to sell in Europe is the Voya and the Voya Free. And they had this pop-up store in the Funfault.
There's a Lotus.
There's a Lotus Electric.
Well, two of them.
Oh, all right. Oh, it looks like a test drive vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had this pop-up store in the Funfault, right in downtown. I think it's Marienplatz, where they were showing a Voya Free and doing test drives. So I had an opportunity to test drive the Voya Free the other day, and now having met him, and we spent a lot of time, I think, reminiscing the
Reminiscing.
Yeah, the histories of where he was, what he was doing in China and what he's doing with the Noyo. Can't share too much, but it was just good to see him. Last time I talked to him was 2020 at the CES.
It's
So,
notable that he also spent some time at Evergrande
yes, right
So-
before, yeah.
before moving back.
Yeah, this was after Biden. So it was good to talk to him, and
It was great to meet James and Philip for the first time as well.
yeah,
from Carwell.
yeah, they're
So,
awesome guys, cool guys, and
so let's press rewind. Let's start with Monday Media Day. And what's
Well,
your reflection on that?
let's do this. Let's break this IA mobility into a few parts. So I arrived a bit earlier to attend. The September 4th is the official press day. But here's how it went. All the German manufacturers, BMW Group, Mercedes, Volkswagen Group, they, before September 4th, they took care of their business because they knew, right? They wanted the spotlight to shine on them beforehand. So they had these launches or brand nights. So BMW Group announced the new Mini, the battery electric Cooper and Countryman on September 1st. And on September 2nd, the Neue Class had their global debut. And then on the 3rd, Mercedes had the concept CLA class debut at their event, which I attended. And simultaneously, Volkswagen Group had their brand group night, where they announced the ID GTI concept and the Cupra, I forgot the model, the concept that they shown. So before the show even started, the German automakers, they were done.
Yes.
I mean, all the announcements were made. So that was before the media day. And then once we got to September 4th, it was time for the China AV Mobility Inc. to shine because, we said BYD, and I tweeted BYD took over Munich because BYD had one of the biggest crowds, which we were at the press conference.
So when we got there, we were about 10 to 15 minutes early. And there was Wang Chuanfu and Stella Li were already sitting, but the crowd hadn't gathered yet. And I didn't realize how large it was.
And the funny thing is, I was at the Volkswagen Group press conference early in the morning, and standing a few spots down next to me was indeed Wang Chuanfu, listening to the press conference. There was a guy behind him, doing the translation, while Oliver Boom and all the other brand CEOs were speaking. And he was actually listening quite, he was paying attention.
Yeah, it was quite intently.
But so I thought that was interesting. And right afterwards, I think BYD press conference a little bit later. I mean, they moved over and
So there is a picture of the presser that I shared on Twitter that can illustrate visually how much interest the folks at the IA had. And we were lucky because we were at the very front. We didn't have to get on our tippy toes to see what was going on. But there was tremendous interest, and it was probably the most full press event that I was at this week. I'm sure it was. But yeah, but to your point, there were a number of battery companies, CATL, Eve, Sunwada,
Calb.
Yep. They weren't shy about trying to find customers. There were two autonomous vehicle companies, Deep Route and QCraft. We know them. They're friends of ours. It was nice seeing Maxwell for the first time.
Yep.
Because we've interviewed these people on the podcast, but we haven't been able to meet them in person. So that was really, really cool. Great people. I think that's the common thread.
That's the thing. I think when we talk about these auto shows, I think if we put it at a 30,000 foot level, this was after the Auto Shanghai, if all the foreign automakers had that initial shock, this Munich IA Mobility, I think, provided, I wouldn't say a shock, but additional reckoning moment, I guess, for them back at their home
Yeah.
Right? So these
This is
Chinese
different.
companies
This is different.
coming, like right in your face style, like, without these Chinese companies, there's probably no IAA mobility because I felt like it was the IAA China EV AV mobility 2023, right?
And it
So-
was all EV companies. It wasn't. Or I mean, it was all about EVs. There's no one was paying attention to ICEs really. So
And I think this format, this is the second time that they've done this. First time in 2021, but because of COVID, there wasn't much crowd. But this is, I think, first time since Auto Shanghai for a major international auto show to have a kind of normal crowd. And from the presser, from the organizers, VDA, there's 750 exhibitors from 38 countries, and the most outside of Germany, the companies came from China. I don't remember the exact number of exhibitors, but I mean there was, and the concept worth mentioning is there's this IAA Summit and the IAA Open Space. So IAA Summit is where the professionals meet in an exhibition hall style show setting. Whereas the open space, all these brands, including BYD, including XPeng, including Avatar, they have booths right inside the city in all the plazas. And it's free for the general
so
public.
it's a public display.
Yeah.
And Volkswagen and BYD had huge booths, outdoor spaces. So yeah, I think that to your point, Lei, it was different when they saw them in Shanghai, but it was different when they saw them in Shanghai because it's China. But this is home turf, and I think it was still very unsettling for them to see that. Now, we should also mention that Chinese EV companies Leap Motor was here.
Yeah. Dongfeng
And
14,
Horizon.
Ceres.
Yeah, Cirrus.
Yeah. Horizon. I mean, there's a couple of. So if we put these companies into buckets, so the OEMs, right? Leap Motor, XPeng, BYD, Dongfeng 14, Ceres,
And NIO.
NIO. Well, NIO.
Well, NIO
I mean,
and
indirectly.
XPeng. NIO and XPeng.
Indirectly, right? So
They
these-
loom large.
yeah.
Right.
The China, those are the OEMs, and then the China Battery Inc., right? CATL, Eve, Sunwoda, Calb, Ferasis, I think 6 or 7, and then the China AV companies, Deep Route and QCraft, and the China chip companies, the Horizon Robotics,
Black
the
Sesame.
Black Sesame, and then also Sense Auto is another company from China, cockpit. Screen, AGI, that type of stuff. And then there's 3 LiDAR companies, Hosai, Innoviz, and Luminar. And 2 of these LiDAR companies, we've interviewed their CEO or CFO. So hopefully we'll get David Lee from Hosai soon enough. And there's a bunch of other China companies exhibiting.
The one thing I do want to mention was that the World New Energy Vehicle Congress
Yes,
was
which I missed, but you
a
attended.
huge event that for the first time was held outside of China. It's normally held in Hainan, but this time the event organizers decided to have it at IAA with the keynote coming from Wang Gang, who,
Godfather of China's NEV battery, revolution. If you
Yes.
want,
And so
because he came back from guess where? From Germany.
Oh,
He
yeah,
came
yeah,
back-
yeah.
He went back from Audi to be the Tongji University's was it president or some other position?
Tongji University
then he
is
be-
also
yeah.
coincidentally where Bluma went.
He had a degree, and Wang Gang was the former Minister of Science and Technology for many years. So
And now he's the chairman of the World New Energy Vehicle Congress.
And you said he basically gave a roadmap of how China got where.
Yeah, so he
Right.
started with a snapshot of where China is, number of vehicles, number of, how the market has evolved over the last couple of years. And then he went a little bit broader, talked about hydrogen, talked about more charging stations, how the amount of investment and it's almost like, and he didn't do this on purpose. I'm interpreting this, but he just seemed like he was like, "Hey, Europe, try to keep up." What was notable was that the gang was there, the whole gang.
The whole gang, exactly. I mean,
Zipsa presented, Bluma presented,
Ola
presented,
Li Bin,
Wang
who else?
Chuanfu.
Wang Chuanfu, yeah.
And so, if we're wondering about how important both countries feel the automotive market is, this should leave no doubt. So, and Bluma's, I was starstruck. I'd never seen them all in one place like that. So I took pictures, posted them, and Bluma's presentation, sounds like you've seen a version of it. So not surprising to Lei, but
Fitness center. That's what he said, right?
yes.
China is a fitness center, and they need to get fit.
Well, so he said, China's our fitness center because we need to work hard to keep up. And, that's very appropriate. But also,
Make sure you get to do the 200 kilometers per hour thing
yeah,
when there's no speed limit.
I'll try to do that.
Because Daniel told us there's a stretch of autobahn that we can get to do a
Yeah,
gunning.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, continue.
But
Bluma, yeah.
but his first slide, or second slide, he said that our China position is very strong. So I don't know.
With asterisks.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it strong. Especially,
Shaky. I think shaky is the word. The best
which is
describe.
the opposite of strong. But especially after the ID4 was reduced to 129,000.
149,000.
Yeah, 149,000.
And that was after the ID3 was reduced to 120,000.
So that's less than $20,000, and this tells me that they're just trying to hold on to capacity, keep factories open. It's better for now to lose a little money on each of these vehicles than to shutter the factory for 2, 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah.
So dire situation for I feel for Volkswagen. I don't feel any better about their situation after walking around their booth in Munich. The only thing that they had to show us was the ID GTI, which is still not going to come out until 2027, I think.
2027,
right?
Yep.
So that's a lifetime away if you're an EV maker, especially if you're an EV maker in China. And the other thing that, as a tangent, Tesla was quietly
Yeah.
at Munich with 2 booths, an outdoor booth and an indoor booth.
Yeah.
Both had the refreshed Made in China Model 3.
Yeah, they had the booth where there's a white board with the white illuminating Tesla logo. So it was very, not the red Tesla logo.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit like, very low
Understated.
Understated. And then I did see the new Model 3 set in it. The fit and finish is quite better
Yeah,
than the current one.
it's a refresh. It's not a.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
But everything else, I mean, it's not significantly too different.
But there was a lot of foot traffic.
Yes,
saw
there
a lot of
was.
foot
I had to
traffic.
wait to get in, So, and then I think another perspective is it's just great to. I mean, it brings everybody over, right? Especially a lot of the Chinese media that came over with these companies. They haven't been attending these international events since early 2020.
So I'm glad you brought that up. There's a gaggle of Chinese media that were coordinated by a German company here.
Teresa,
yeah.
yeah, right.
And so I was able to sit through press conferences
right?
with Horizon, with Leap Motor, with XPeng, and this is really their first opportunity to address Western media in such a way that is all about what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're not playing defense, they're communicating. This is communication.
Yeah.
And so I think that was very important.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of us being at the XPeng press conference and Brian mentioning that. I think he specifically said we're going to be very aggressive entering markets next year.
Yes. So they had made the official announcement that they're entering Germany. So that was their major announcement, and additional markets, and they're looking to team up with local partners. So now they have the G9 and the P7i,
Yes.
and then they're launching the G6 next year, I believe, and even with the right-hand drive version in some other markets.
So he said by the end of next year they should have a right-hand drive version.
Right, of the G6.
But it doesn't
yeah.
make sense, he said, for them to retroactively turn a current vehicle into a right-hand drive
Yeah.
vehicle.
So XPeng made the announcement. Leapmotor made the announcement that the C10 was their first global car, and
Yep.
they're planning to enter Europe. But so beforehand, they're also been rumored of maybe working with some foreign OEMs on platforms, right? So we talked about that earlier.
There's two potential European. There's Stellantis and there's Volkswagen. Those are the two rumors.
Right. And then BYD, obviously, with a huge press conference, announced the launch of the BYD Seal at around 50,000 euros.
50,000 euros.
So what do you think? Is that a competitive? That's before subsidies, right?
Yeah, so they specifically said that
Right.
in the press conference.
So for a sedan, Model 3 style sedan.
Yeah.
So
But a reminder to everyone that the Seal is a $28,000 car in China.
yeah,
So this is almost 2x.
yeah.
I'm not sure.
And-
They've been very conservative with pricing in Europe and even before with the Han and the Tang, right?
Mhm.
So
And remember that their current Tang and the Han sells for 70,000 euros. So
yeah, so I this is where I think we'll see BYD dominate in some of the more emerging markets like a Southeast Asia, Latin America, but may struggle a bit more in the Western markets unless they sharpen their pencils.
And then some of the chatter from the, Olaf Scholz, the CEOs of German automakers. I think what Olaf Scholz said was, "Don't be afraid of the Chinese companies. I mean, right? We as Germany, we're competitive, right?" I think that was his point. And then,
Speaking of which, I was at the Volkswagen booth on Tuesday.
yeah,
And next thing I know, there's a bunch of police, a couple of dogs, and I just get shoved
pushed over.
into the outer
Well,
section.
at least you didn't get kicked out like last year in Detroit when
Yeah.
Biden came.
Well, and
they
then-
kicked everybody out.
And then so I'm far away, I can't see very well, and I'm like, who is this guy? You know, I'm by myself, so because he's instantly recognizable, but he has this patch on, so I'm like, who's this guy talking?
The German local call him the pirate now.
So
Pirate shots.
so Olaf stopped by the Volkswagen Group booth, and everything was at a standstill. Talking, Bluma was there, so that was pretty cool. You know, to have the president of Germany,
Prime Minister.
or Prime
Yeah,
Minister
yeah.
of Germany.
And then just the experience I had was the first when I arrived, I checked out the NIO hub in Munich, and I test drove the EL7, and then they had this big vault in the NIO hub. It's actually like a Forest store. They have a big vault of parking space where you can park about 200 NIOs right behind, and then they have the service bay. And then I tried out the Voya Free. Yesterday at the show, I test drove the XEV. See, that's another China factor that I think is under, I guess we don't talk enough about, is this Stanley Liu, he founded this company which sells these two-seaters to fleets. And they're battery swappable, but they're manually battery swapped
Right.
batteries with 3 batteries in the back. So each about 20 kilograms and 3.4 kilowatt hours. So total of just a little bit more than 10 kilowatt hours. But these little cars, they can go maximum range 150 kilometers. And they're pretty popular in Italy, fleets. And they sell about 15,000 euros.
Which is not cheap.
Well, I mean, cheap enough, and they're trying to enter other markets. And these vehicles are made in JAC, I believe,
Right.
contract manufacturer. Yesterday, also after the XEV, I test rode the Hi-Fi Z, which Hesai is organizing because Hesai supplies the FT128 LiDAR on the Hi-Fi Z. And they just opened up the Hi-Fi Z showroom inside the Munich airport.
Right.
So you might want to check it
I
out.
will- I will check it out.
I'll check it out tomorrow because I'm leaving tomorrow. So, I mean, there's so many different ways China, let's just say China Inc., are playing this game of, you know, branding, trying to enter Europe. But I would say this wolf coming cry may be a little bit overblown because at the end of the day, if you look at the volumes, BYD and all these brands that are showing up, right, they're still very low. And in Germany specifically, the top selling China EV brands are MG and Polestar, which we call them half Chinese brands because they have their own British and Swedish heritage. So I say they're not really Chinese brands, but they're kind of Chinese brands. So,
Yeah.
but they're really not. I would say.
And upon reflecting over the last several days, a couple of things. I didn't see many Chinese EVs on the roads. I took pictures. I saw P7. I saw BYD.
I saw a few BYDs. I saw some Seriuses, maybe test riding vehicles. Saw quite a few MGs. Saw here and there a Neo or two.
I didn't see many Teslas either. But one thing that stood out to me was that there's just a lack of charging infrastructure
It's
in
not.
Munich.
It's not like China.
So that could be a current challenge that'll last for quite some time for Munich. I don't know how the rest of Germany is with regard to charging infrastructure, but it's more or less the investment into building that out. So I think the threat is there,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be a 6-month thing. It's not going to be a 9-month thing. But China EV Inc. And I don't think it's any coincidence that they're here in en masse because of the Inflation Reduction Act. So I think that looms large over why they had such the Chinese companies had such a large footprint.
I will put it this way,
show.
that over the last 3.5 years, the rise of the China EVs and these companies, smart EV startups, what they've been able to launch in the market, what they have done have had definitely influence on what Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, what they've showed at Dial Mobility. But let's say, the wolf is coming, taking over the market. I think it's going to be a long way. And it shouldn't be surprising because Ola said, when Mercedes was founded 137 years ago, a few years later, they started thinking about global ambitions. And it's just natural for these Chinese brands to go global. And right now, Europe is the first destination.
Well,
right? So
it's
one of the first destinations.
It's important to remember that scale creates flexibility.
Yeah.
So if your domestic market isn't that big or is too competitive, you try to find that scale somewhere else. And so I think that's what China EV Inc. is trying to do, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
And for at least the Xpungs and the Neos, they have shareholders in the West that have expectations, and so up till now, they've been disappointing their investors a little bit. So, but it's a long game, right?
So the other influence is Mercedes. Their China R&D team is responsible for the global rear seating infotainment. That's one example of China leading the way, and the other is these tier ones, the ZFs, the Contis, the Forvias. Some of the products that are being shown, some of the tech, they're going to be adopted on China EV products first. For example, the steer-by-wire from ZF is going to go on the Neo first. That's coming in 2025, I think. But other than the show itself, Munich this week, the weather was perfect for a show like this. The open space and then just just meeting a lot of people, right? Talking to the old contacts, new people, new friends.
I met Edison for the first time.
Edison. You met Edison for the first time. All right, we had that nice dinner the other day
Yes,
with the,
with leaked pictures.
That's how it should be, right?
So-
It's leaked. Yeah, with the Neo gang. And then,
It's always, I think one of the highlights for me going to these shows and this stuff is seeing people that we probably regularly correspond with or talk with, share rumors with.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool because we're just kind of nerds. We're all kind of nerds. One thing that I did want to mention was that I went to that Assembly Ventures event, the beer garden.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine works as a battery analyst for McKinsey.
Right.
And Mujibi Jazz, Johan?
Johan, okay.
And Mujibi Jazz was at this event because Assembly is an investor.
Yep.
And he and Johan sat down for about 30, 40 minutes just talking about batteries. And got to appreciate Mujib's enthusiasm. Mujib's enthusiasm. And yeah, so for me, it was well worth it. Met up with some clients, met up with some potential clients, and got a feel for how the auto show circuit outside of Shanghai and Detroit should be. I think I thought LA was okay last year. I'll go again. I'm thinking about Toyota or
Tokyo Mobility Show. That's end of October, I believe.
And it seems like it would be much more expensive.
Yeah.
So unless there's a specific need, I might skip the Tokyo.
Yeah, I
Motor
probably
Show.
won't go.
And so,
after this, we head back to the U.S. and then
yeah, 2 days.
next week it's
2 days later.
it's the Detroit, the old and how do we describe this? Old and outdated Detroit Auto Show, where it's becoming a local show.
So
It's becoming the big three auto show. Plus Toyota, plus Hyundai, Kia. That's it.
It's challenging because the dealers run it, and I think that makes it a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But last year there was.
But last year we had a great week.
Yeah.
I mean, but maybe this year
Only
will
one
be,
major announcement, the Mustang.
yeah.
But we'll get to see friends.
I think this year probably will be underwhelming. Especially
I hope not.
after I think iMobility was pretty close to overwhelming for me.
Yes, and it's so fresh in our memory.
Yeah.
So I don't. Yeah, one reminder, housekeeping, for those of you that are in Detroit for the auto show on Tuesday night, Lei and I will again host a happy hour at the Brakeman at 5:30, starting at 5:30, and one guy that a friend of the show, friend of ours, will be coming in from Washington. So I think that'll be exciting to see him. But yeah, that's all I had today, Lei. How about you?
Well, you're almost at the terminal, so I mean, there's so much we can talk about, but I'm
finding it hard to focus on driving.
Exactly. But this is cool. I mean, right? Driving a Neo ET7 in Munich and recording an episode on China EVs and more. I mean, it's once in a lifetime, I think.
Yeah, that's
We'll get to do this maybe in another China EV in 2025.
Yes, and we made some bold proclamations last night amongst our friends.
Yeah.
So hopefully some of those do come true. Anyways, I am a huge fan of Munich now and would like to take my family. And
Same
I'll
here,
definitely
likewise.
be going to the show in 2025 when it happens next. So anyways, everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
Likewise, we'll talk to you next time.
That brings us to the end of this week's show. Lei and I thank you for tuning in. My name is Tu Lee, and you can find me on Twitter at Sino Auto Insight. That's SinoAutoInsight. You can find Lei on Twitter at LeiXing77. That's LEIXING77. If you wouldn't mind rating and or reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you grab your podcast from, we'd appreciate that as well. Even better, if you enjoy this show, please tell your friends about it. Please join us again next week as we track down all the latest news on China, EVs, and more.